These men had it, all of it. The big contracts, the mansions, the entourages, the magazine covers. Some of them earned more money in a single year than most families will see in 5 lifetimes. And then one deal went wrong. One investment. One person they trusted. One bad bet on the wrong thing. And just like that, the whole thing came down. Not slowly, but fast. We're talking about 10 of the most recognizable names in black sports and entertainment who lost everything. What really happened behind the scenes that caused these legends to lose every single penny? Join us as we uncover each of their stories to see exactly what went wrong. Number 10. Warren Sapp, the Super Bowl champion who bet his fortune on low-income housing. You see, Warren Sapp was the guy who terrorized quarterbacks for 13 seasons. He was a first-ballot Hall of Famer, a Super Bowl champion with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and one of the most dominant defensive linemen the NFL has ever seen. He walked away from the game with somewhere between $40 and $58 million in career earnings. But then in April 2012, a year before he got inducted into the Hall of Fame, he filed for bankruptcy. The court papers were wild to read. $6.7 million in debt, and just $826 in his bank account. 240 pairs of Air Jordans spread across 3 rooms in his house. A lion skin rug, a painting of a nude woman, and both of his championship rings were listed as lost. His Super Bowl ring and his college national championship ring from Miami. Just like that, everything was all gone. So how does that happen to someone who made that kind of money? A lot of little things, but the one that started everything was a real estate investment in Fort Pierce, Florida in 2005. Sapp put money into a low-income housing development. Construction loans, undeveloped units, and the whole thing. The plan made sense at the time. Then 2008 came, and the recession hit, the housing market fell apart, and those units sat unsold with nobody coming to buy them. Sapp was personally responsible for the debt. He owed about $1 million just from that one deal. And because he never adjusted his spending when his income dropped from $5 million a year as a player down to under $1 million as an NFL Network analyst, the hole just kept getting bigger. He had to pay for child support to 4 different women, overdue IRS payments, and his analyst paycheck was garnished by creditors before he even saw it. Everything hit at the same time. Sapp later said it himself that he made bad real estate investments right before the housing bust. And he was one of the lucky ones, because at least he got to rebuild. Today, he is coaching at the University of Colorado under Deion Sanders, earning $150K a year and calling it the best chapter of his life. But the Super Bowl ring is still missing. Number 9. Terrell Owens, the NFL Hall of Famer who bought into an illegal casino. Here is what makes Terrell Owens so painful to talk about. He did not blow his money partying. He did not gamble it away in Las Vegas. He genuinely thought he was investing. He thought the people around him were building something for him. And by the time he found out the truth, $80 million was basically gone. Owens played 15 seasons in the NFL. He was one of the most physically gifted wide receivers the league had ever seen. He earned close to $80 million in salary and roughly $13 million or more in endorsements. And then in 2012, he appeared on television and told the world it was almost all gone. Nothing. After all that. The real estate situation was bad enough on its own. His advisors had placed him into risky, highly leveraged ventures, according to Owens himself in a GQ interview. He had bought multiple homes and condos across the country, believing that he could rent them out if things ever got rough. One property in New Jersey cost him close to $4 million. When the housing crash came in 2008, he could not rent them, could not sell them without losing money, and was spending $750,000 a year just to keep up with the mortgages. He sold one of those homes at a $1.7 million loss, but the one that really stands out is the Alabama Entertainment Complex. Owens put $2 million into a venue with an electronic bingo component in his home state. The problem was that type of gambling was illegal in Alabama, and nobody on his team caught it. Or if they did, nobody told him. The state shut it down. And then on top of that, the NFL's own rules prohibited players from investing in gambling operations. So he was in violation on 2 separate fronts, and he lost the full investment. I got sucked into wanting to be like everybody else. Owens said. "The guys with the Mercedes and all the flashy cars and the jewelry? I think those are some of the most idiotic purchases players can do." And today, he is worth about $500,000 from $80 million. Number 8. MC Hammer, the man who built a $40 million house and had to sell it for $5 million. In 1991, MC Hammer made $33 million in a single year. His album Please Hammer Don't Hurt 'Em went diamond, which means it sold 10 million copies. He was the first rapper to ever reach that level of mainstream crossover success. He was bigger than most pop stars, and 5 years later, he was standing in bankruptcy court. But here's the thing, Hammer did not make one bad investment exactly. He made one catastrophically bad lifestyle decision, and everything he had poured into it. He bought land in Fremont, California, tore down what was already there, and built a 40,000 square foot mansion from scratch. Gold-plated gates at the entrance with the words "Hammer Time" engraved on them, 2 swimming pools, a 17-car garage, a bowling alley, a baseball diamond, Italian marble floors, a recording studio, a gold hot tub, and statues of himself inside the house. The total cost of buying the land and building the property came out to somewhere between $30 million and $42 million. And then, he hired 200 people to work for him full-time. Staff, crew, entourage. That alone cost $500,000 every single month. When his music fell out of fashion in the mid-90s and the income stopped, the house did not stop costing money. Property taxes, maintenance, staff salaries, mortgage, all of it kept running. Hammer had nothing else to fall back on because he had never put his money into anything that could hold value independently. He had just been spending it as fast as it came in. By 1996, his debts were $13.7 million and his assets were $9.6 million. The math did not work. He filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, listed the mansion for $6.8 million, and it sold at a loss for around $5.3 million. He also owed $500,000 to Deion Sanders and had overdue IRS debt that was still chasing him years later. He has since rebuilt through tech investing in Silicon Valley, working with companies including Twitter before it became X. But the man who once said, "Can't touch this," had to watch a $40 million dream get auctioned off for $5. Number 7. Antoine Walker, $108 million. Walker Ventures and the recession that took it all. Antoine Walker came into the NBA at 19 years old with nothing. Grew up in Chicago with humble beginnings, got drafted by the Boston Celtics, and over the next 13 seasons earned $108 million. Championship ring, 3 All-Star selections, a $71 million contract he signed at 21 years old. He thought he was set for life. 2 years after he retired in 2008, he filed for bankruptcy. Walker has talked about this publicly and repeatedly because he wants people to understand what actually happened, and the thing he keeps coming back to is simple. The money came so fast without the education. His very first paycheck in the league was $1.6 million. After taxes, he saw $800,000. Nobody had prepared him for that, so from day one, he was operating on the wrong math. The spending was real: cars, houses in multiple cities, jewelry, and between 30 and 70 friends and family members that he supported financially at various points in his career. But the investment that truly collapsed everything was a company called Walker Ventures, his Chicago-based real estate firm. Walker did not just invest in it. He personally guaranteed the loans for undeveloped properties across the city. That means when those properties lost value in the 2008 recession and the construction stopped and the banks came calling, they came for him directly. No shield, no corporate protection, just him. He was forced to pay back around $20 million to lenders. His personal guarantees tied him to every dollar of that failure. The financial advisor involved in some of the deals later faced his own criminal charges, but that did not get Walker his money back. And by 2010, the numbers were clear: $12.74 million in liabilities, $4.28 million in assets. Chapter 7 Bankruptcy. But he has since rebuilt, works in financial literacy, and dedicates his time to making sure young athletes do not repeat his mistakes. Number 6. Allen Iverson, a jewelry bill, and the moment he said he had no money for a cheeseburger. There is a line from Allen Iverson's divorce proceedings in 2012 that people still cannot believe. He told his wife he did not have money for a cheeseburger. His wife opened her purse and handed him $61. This is a man who earned $154 million in NBA salary. And that is before you add the Reebok lifetime deal, the $32 million trust fund that releases at 55, and the $800,000 annual payment he still receives from that same deal today. So what happened? It did not start with a single bad investment. It started with a lifestyle that never had an off switch. Iverson traveled with a 50-person entourage everywhere he went. His wife's American Express card was paying insurance on 14 cars every single month, 5 of which were his, and the rest belonged to friends and family he was taking care of. He had a personal hairstylist who flew from New Jersey just to braid his hair 2 or 3 times a week. He would go on road trips and not bring any luggage because he could just buy new clothes when he got there. But the thing that blew it all into public view was a $375,000 jewelry bill from a company called Adine & Company in 2010. He never paid for it. The interest and legal fees ran the balance up to $89,296. And when he still could not pay, the judge signed an order letting the jeweler pull the money directly from Iverson's Wells Fargo bank account. But there was almost nothing in it. A judge ordered his account seized. Allen Iverson, the 11-time All-Star who once had the entire NBA talking, could not cover a jewelry bill. He lost millions at casinos over the years, and even had a $25,000 gambling debt to Caesar's Palace that his wife quietly paid, court judgments for incidents involving his security detail, multiple years of financial support to dozens of people in his inner circle. The Reebok trust is still there, but everything he earned and spent on himself is long gone. Number 5. 50 Cent, $100 million from vitamin water, gone. In 2007, Forbes estimated 50 Cent's net worth at $155 million. He had sold over 30 million albums. He had made a reported $100 million off vitamin water when Coca-Cola bought the brand. He had businesses, films, clothing, everything. 50 Cent was the definition of self-made. And in July 2015, he sat in a Connecticut bankruptcy courtroom and told a judge he owed $32.6 million and had about $20 million assets. The deal that did the most damage was the Sleek Audio situation. In 2011, 50 partnered with a company called Sleek Audio to launch a premium headphone line called Sleek by 50. The deal fell through. But instead of walking away clean, 50 then launched his own competing headphone brand called SMS Audio. Sleek Audio took one look at those products and said the designs were basically identical to what they had been working on together. They went to arbitration, and the arbitrator agreed with Sleek Audio. After everything, a judgment came back for $18.4 million against 50 Cent. That was the largest single debt on his books when he filed for bankruptcy. Then a second judgment dropped at the same time. 50 had posted someone's personal video online without her consent, and a New York jury awarded her $7 million in damages. With this 2 cases back-to-back, 50 had $25 million in debt. And the rest of the picture was not good either. His music career had slowed down. His clothing line had lost its major distribution deal. His film production companies were not generating significant returns. The 2008 recession had eaten into investments. Everything was draining at once. 50 was strategic about how he used the bankruptcy process. His lawyer described it as a reorganization, not a collapse. He agreed to pay back $23.4 million over time, and he eventually did. He also posted stacks of cash on Instagram while the case was ongoing, which became one of the most talked about moves in celebrity bankruptcy history. Number 4. Scottie Pippen, the man who got robbed by his own financial advisor. Now, here is what happened to Scottie Pippen. He earned $109 million over 17 seasons in the NBA, 6 championships with the Bulls, 2 Olympic gold medals, and one of the best to ever do it. But then a significant chunk of that money disappeared before he even knew it was gone, because the man he trusted to protect it was committing fraud the entire time. His financial advisor's name was Robert Lunn. The Chicago Bulls actually introduced Lunn to Pippen during his playing days, which meant he came with a level of institutional credibility. Lunn had previously worked at Morgan Stanley and Lehman Brothers. His resume looked legitimate. So Pippen handed him over $20 million to manage across various investment accounts and real estate projects. What Pippen did not know was that Lunn was running a fraud. He forged Pippen's signature on loan applications, took out a $1.4 million loan in Pippen's name from a bank called Leaders Bank, and then used most of that money to pay his own mortgage and cover debts to other clients. He told the bank the money was for Pippen to invest in a private jet. And when everything unraveled in 2014, Lunn was convicted on multiple counts of bank fraud and sentenced to 3 years in prison. He was ordered to pay $400,000 back to Pippen, out of $20 million. And the jet story? That made it worse. Around 2002, Pippen bought a Gulfstream II corporate jet for $4.3 million. When it arrived, it could not fly. It needed $1 million in engine repairs just to be airworthy. He sued and recovered about $2.3 million. But he had spent $4.3 million and gotten half of it back on a plane he never actually got to use properly. There was also a $3.25 million real estate investment that went bad, a divorce that split his retirement fund in half, and years of child support obligations. His former advisor is out of prison. Pippen has rebuilt to around $20 million through his bourbon brand, media deals, and Nike royalties. But the story of how a Hall of Famer got taken by the person whose one job was to protect his money is one that never gets old. Number 3. Evander Holyfield. $230 million and a 109-room mansion that ate everything. Now look at this. Evander Holyfield earned over $230 million in his boxing career. He fought for 27 years, beat Mike Tyson, won the heavyweight title 4 times, and was one of the greatest fighters who ever lived. But then in 2008, a public notice appeared in a small Georgia newspaper announcing that his estate was going up for auction because he had defaulted on a $10 million bank loan. What's intriguing is that all this started with a property. It was a 109-room mansion in Fayetteville, Georgia, on 235 acres of land, right off a road that had been renamed Evander Holyfield Highway. The estate had 17 bathrooms, 3 kitchens, an Olympic-sized swimming pool, a bowling alley, a movie theater, and a basketball court. He had it built at an estimated cost of $20 million, but what nobody seemed to properly calculate, or what Holyfield did not want to hear, was that the estate cost approximately $1 million per year just in maintenance and taxes. Not mortgage, just upkeep. So as his earnings from boxing started declining after 1999, that property kept draining money every single year like clockwork. But Holyfield also made 2 serious business investments outside of boxing that both collapsed. He put money into a recording label and into a Christian television network called the Black Family Channel, based in Atlanta. Both ventures failed and together added an estimated $10 million or more to his debt. By the time the foreclosure hit, he owed $14 million in overdue mortgage payments. He had child support obligations to 11 children by multiple women, and a Utah landscaping company had sued him for $550,000 in unpaid bills. This made the situation completely unraveled. In 2023, Holyfield said part of the problem was his sister, who he claims took out a second mortgage on the property illegally without telling him. Whatever the full story is, the numbers do not lie. The estate was eventually bought by Rick Ross for $5.8 million, and the man who had once earned $35 million in a single fight ended up in a 2-bedroom apartment. Number 2. Mike Tyson. $400 million, Don King, and the biggest financial robbery in sports history. At his peak, Mike Tyson was making $30 million a fight. He had a $120 million pay-per-view contract with Showtime. His total career earnings hit somewhere between $400 million and $430 million. He was the youngest heavyweight champion in history at just 20 years old and the most feared athlete on the planet for nearly a decade. But then in 2003, he filed for bankruptcy with $23 million in debt, and $13.4 million of what he owed was just to the IRS. Yes, the IRS alone got $13.4 million. His spending was legendary, and not in a good way. He bought 3 Bengal tigers, each costing $70,000 to buy and $200,000 a year combined to maintain. Owned a 52-room mansion in Ohio that he later sold to 50 Cent for $4.4 million. He also had 50-person entourage that traveled with him everywhere. A single shopping trip at a London jewelry store in 2000 where he dropped $688,400 and then refused to pay the bill. At one point, he was spending $100,000 every month on jewelry and clothes alone. But here's the part that goes beyond spending, and this part is actually about robbery. Tyson filed a $100 million lawsuit against his promoter Don King, alleging that King had manipulated him into signing exploitative contracts while he was still in prison on a rape conviction in the early 1990s. Tyson claimed King had siphoned off millions from his purses over years, taking cuts that were not legally his. With this, the lawsuit stated that King had duped him into a contract while he was incarcerated and unable to make fully informed decisions. It was later settled in 2004 for $14 million, but by then, the damage had already been done over a decade of mismanaged earnings. With multiple divorces and 3 years in prison. The income just stopped during those years, but the expenses did not. The post-prison comeback fights did not generate enough to cover what he already owed, and by 2004, total debt had climbed to over $38 million. He has rebuilt it through a cannabis business, a podcast, and entertainment. But the question of how much Tyson should have walked away with compared to what he actually got is still one of the most uncomfortable conversations in sports business. Now here's the most intriguing one. Number 1. Damon Dash, the man who built the blueprint for black ownership and filed for bankruptcy, preaching the same thing. This one is different, because this is not just about losing money. This is about a man who made ownership his whole identity, spent decades telling black people to demand their seat at the table, to never just be the talent, to be the boss. And then, in September 2025, that same man filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Florida with $100 cash in hand, $4,450 in total assets, and $25 million in debt. Damon Dash co-founded Roc-A-Fella Records with Jay-Z and Kareem Biggs Burke in 1994. He was not the talent, but the infrastructure. He was the one kicking down corporate doors, demanding deals, negotiating terms, and building the machine that turned Jay-Z into a global brand. Under Roc-A-Fella, the label launched Kanye West and gave him his first real platform. The Roc-A-Wear clothing line eventually sold for $204 million in 2007. For a period in the early 2000s, Dame Dash was worth tens of millions and walking like he knew it. But when the partnership with Jay-Z ended in the mid-2000s, the entire financial foundation changed. Dash tried to rebuild everything independently. Film companies, art ventures, independent media. He even backed artists, funded his own projects. And because he refused to take outside investment on terms he did not fully control, he financed almost all of it himself. The money went out. The returns were not consistent, and through all of it, the taxes kept accumulating. By the time his 2025 bankruptcy papers were filed, he owed $9.6 million to New York State, $3.5 million to New Jersey, $5.8 million to California, nearly $4 million to a filmmaker who won a defamation judgment against him, and hundreds of thousands in child support to multiple ex-partners. The total was over $25 million. But the part that cuts deepest? The New York State government auctioned off his entire share of Roc-A-Fella Records, including his portion of Jay-Z's debut album Reasonable Doubt, for just $1 million. Album still generates royalties today. It is considered one of the most important albums in hip-hop history. And Dame Dash's stake in it got sold at auction by a government agency for less than what a mid-level rapper makes in a year. When someone asked him how he ended up broke, he said, "Investing in my dreams." When you're investing in your dreams and you dream big, you're always gonna be broke. And that answer tells you everything about who he is, but it also tells you exactly why it happened. These are 10 names, and every single one of them had a moment where one decision changed everything. So, who had the most heartbreaking fall on this list? Drop your answer in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Black Status for more. And remember, money can go as fast as it comes. Never forget that.